Dave Suroop, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
So great to be here, Pascal. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my gosh. You know, the moment, I don't know, I had this little girl crush on you anyway because I've seen you at different events and I've experienced some of your sound healing. And let me just say that the honor is all mine. I'm so excited to have you here.
You're so generous. Thank you. It's so nice to be here with you.
No, of course. So, as we're even getting started, I want to just first talk about your first name because your first name is Dave Suroop,
Yeah,
Devsuroop.
that's correct. Yeah.
Is that your given name at birth?
No, it's not.
Can
It's
we talk about it?
yeah, sure. Yeah. So when I was early mid 20s, I got involved in the Kundalini yoga and Western Sikh community. And I was living in Fairbanks, Alaska at the time. Just it's kind of interesting. And the name was given to me by the leader of that whole thing, and it was to reflect your your destiny, reflect what you needed, what would be helpful for you to fulfill what you're here to manifest on the planet. So it was given to me. I adopted it. And Dave, it's spelled DEV, but Dave means angel or transparent form of God. And Suroop is embodiment. So just a little on that, which is interesting, is that I have back then, in my journey of my life, I felt very kind of dense and kind of earth, like didn't feel the subtle so much. And then through my practices, my experience of the subtle became stronger. And so a lot of my teaching is one of my gifts is to really ground that subtle experience into words so people can better access it. And of course, through the voice, if that makes sense. So it's been a real useful, you know, name, a useful reflection through
Yeah,
my,
it's like a guide.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful. Well, I will say there's nothing subtle about what you do. I mean, I think that when you talk to people, as people are hearing now, your voice is very calm and it's not quiet, but
Mm,
it's not loud, right? I've
mm,
always been told I'm very loud. Your voice is just very present.
mm,
It's neither quiet or loud. And
mm.
you just have this gentle, loving, beautiful spirit that emanates in your aura. I mean, it transmutes every space that you're in.
Wow, thank you for that. Oh, my video just went off. Isn't that weird? Yeah.
I'm not going to say that was by accident. I think that all of these
I
things
don't know.
happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that reflection. That's so generous of you because like we're just all just doing our thing
Yeah.
and not necessarily knowing how we're landing, you know?
We were together at a retreat last spring, and you were on the stage and you were leading a sound healing. We were chanting, and you had your guitar.
Mm,
I'm covered in chills right now, just
mm,
remembering back to it. That's how powerful it was for me.
wow.
It was so moving. It makes me feel like right now, just
Yeah.
going back in that time, like I
Mm,
could cry
wow.
because I don't think I've ever been in the presence of someone with the strength and the force, I suppose, that you give out. I don't know. It just enveloped me. I truly believe it enveloped the room. And I think there was so much healing in that space in
Mm.
that moment.
Yeah, it makes me think about how these things are cultivated over time. It's uh like like I didn't land on that. I didn't come in that way. I think I came in with the potential, but
Yeah,
I didn't land that way. And I think that's true with all of us that were kind of in that flow. I'm thinking circuitous, but that meandering of life and dealing with times when you feel really on and times where you're like, what? And like it's not like, and I'm kind of going here. It's like we can look at other people and go, oh wow, look at her. She's on the stage. She's holding that space, and assume that there's not a life. Um, I don't really want to use the word struggle, but there's a journey that takes you to that moment,
a
and that's
reality, right?
yeah,
In
yeah,
that moment, that was your reality. But there's also all this other reality surrounding you. And I
yeah,
completely understand that because I always say that I live my life in the flow. And I just kind of go where the universe takes me and where the universe shows me where I'm supposed to be next. Right. And
yeah,
so I completely understand and resonate with what it is you're trying to say,
yeah,
because what worked for us last year maybe isn't what works for us this year. And for me, it's about the energy of the whole thing. So if the energy feels in alignment, I'm there and I know that the universe has brought me to this place for a reason. But if the universe or if the energy does not feel aligned, that's not my place. And if it was my place, it's not my place anymore.
yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about women finding clarity and the journey of finding clarity.
Yeah.
A- And
It's been a journey. I was
yeah,
with someone just this week who, she was like, "How's business going?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's really well." And she's like, "How many clients do you have?" And la la la. And I said, well, I have changed um in the scope of coaching per se.
yeah,
I've changed my niche. I've changed my focus a couple of times on who the people are that I'm trying to call in. And it's because it felt right in that moment to say this group of people. And then it didn't. And when it stopped feeling like it resonated, I knew there was something different. And so I pivoted. And then I pivoted again. And where I am now feels like magic. And I
ah,
feel like I had to go through that process to land here. And so I completely hear what you're saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's a journey. And, you know, to your point, we should never feel embarrassed or less than or invalidated because we want to change where we are, our station in life, our career, our relationships, our anything. Because
yeah,
that change means we're evolving and we're growing and we're expanding.
yeah. Yeah, I've been listening to a book by Pema Chodron, the Buddhist teacher, and it's a book called When Things Fall Apart. And it's really interesting because she talks about, and you know how when you get messages from all sorts of different places and they're not colluding on the earth plane, right? They're from different places. And it's about being in this, like thinking of, um, I'm trying to think like here's where the struggle and challenge is. Here's where the kind of peaceful place is, and how we're looking for, I do, like looking for to stay over here, right? To find here. And this teaching is about just being in that center place of you're like the folly essentially of trying to chase this and this only rather than being in this integrated, because like you're saying, you have the evolution of the the where you're going, and this is where you've landed right now, but you're going to land somewhere else soonish, and
Yes.
that's all good.
Yes.
And yeah, so uh that's been a big teaching coming to me,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, yeah.
I
Uh,
love all of that because as a master manifester, and I just recently have started owning that because someone told me that years ago. They're like,
Ah,
oh, you really are a master manifester. And then she told someone else, and someone else gave me a job and was like, so and so says you're a master manifester. So I need you on my team and all these
wow.
things. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like I own that now because
Right.
I see it happening, right? I can watch it. And the reality of manifestation, which is also the reality of life, is that it's not the thing that we're chasing that we want, because once we achieve that place, that station, we're holding that thing in our hands. Now we want the next thing, right? So
Yeah,
it's not that it's not enough. It's just that we're always moving forward. We're always growing. And so it's in that space that you were just talking about. That's the feeling. So if you want to manifest, you got to live in that feeling, the feeling of the thing you're working toward and you're growing toward. And what you were just describing is exactly that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love you so much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so fun to be with you.
So fun to be
One of
with
my
you.
buddies. Yeah, that's good.
It's good.
Yeah,
So I want to talk about your business.
yeah,
And your business is called Empowered Sound.
yes.
And let's talk a little bit about that, like what it is that you do, how you lead people through what you do.
Yeah, so my focus is I work with yoga teachers and also yoga practitioners, although I can really work with anybody, but that's, the focus, who really want to up level their teaching and their practice with sound and mantra tools so that they can create profound transformation for themselves and their students. So, uh, I came to this because, I had a regular career for, a long time. And in what I would do on the side is I was a Kundalini yoga teacher trainer, which I still am, and with a real dedicated expertise in sound and mantra. So what I learned over all these years, and I traveled all over the world, I had it all worked out with my work that I could do this. And so I did both things, but I focused on teacher training, um, was helping people to find their own voice, because there's a really interesting thing about, okay, so sound healing is big in the world, right? I've got my little bowl, so there's bowls and there's didgeridoos and drums and gongs and all sorts of things. But we also have the voice, your own beautiful, incredible voice, which each voice has its own unique imprint. And it's incredibly healing to use your own voice to transform and heal yourself and also others. But what's tricky about it is we have a lot of, I'm tone deaf, I sing off key,
I'm
you know,
raising my hand.
yeah, somebody told me, somewhere along the line, don't sing, I can't stand your voice, or we were silenced. I don't know who wasn't, you know,
Right.
as children,
If you grew up before the 90s, you were silenced.
yeah, and I don't know anything about afterwards, but the whole silent thing. And
Yeah.
so there's something that what I find over and over and again when I work with people is that know there's this great capacity. They want to be able to use their voice, but they have this self-perception. So a lot of what I'm doing when I'm working with people is helping them to close that gap and create a really embodied sense of their own voice. Then, you can be teaching while you're doing that, but the more confident you are doing that, then you start applying, I use mantra, I use toning, I use humming, I use these things for people to create that comfort. So what I'm really interested in doing is getting people deeply embodied in themselves so that they're using their healing instrument for themselves and for others with greater confidence.
Mm.
So,
I need you so badly in my life. It's funny because today is the anniversary of when my husband and I met.
oh
And
wow.
we were at a wedding. I'm just like pivoting off for a moment because
Sure, sure,
it's
sure.
coming back to a bigger point. We
Yeah.
were at a wedding and we both had had a few drinks, and we'd been looking at each other all night, but we didn't talk to each other and all these things. So towards the end of the night, he comes up and he says, "Why aren't you dancing?" And I looked at him and I said, "Because no one asked." And right. So I've always been a little bit fresh, I guess. But anyway, so we went out and danced. And then the next song came on and we continued to dance. The next song, the second song, was Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks.
Huh.
Neither of us remember the first song.
Oh.
So our song is Friends in Low Places.
Oh wow. Wow.
So weird. It's so weird and yet so very like uniquely us and whatever. So
Yeah.
this morning we gave each other a hug and we started singing the song. And he's like, as we're kind of singing and swaying, he's like, "Thank God you do what you do and you're not trying to be a singer." Dave Suroop, I'm just not a singer. I
Yeah.
do believe I'm tone deaf. And in high school, I played the flute in the
Yeah.
band,
Yeah.
right? We went to Canada for a competition kind of a thing. And there was a part of a song where we had to hum. And I sat in the front row and my band teacher looked at me and he goes, or we had to whistle. He looked at me and goes, "Pascal, just pretend to whistle. Don't actually whistle."
Yeah.
Like I could play the flute and be on tune and be on key and do
Yeah.
the things, but when it comes to my voice, no. So
Yeah.
are you saying that there's a connection between being silenced and being told and all those things and actually improving your voice?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because we get muted, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's something that stops us, you know, like here, stops us from coming out, from coming forward because, we don't just, of course, when we're infants and we're children, we're vocalizing a lot and it doesn't matter and blah, doing our whole thing, right? But there's silencing that happens in different ways as we go along. Your story is fortunately not unique. I always ask people when I'm teaching, how many of you were told don't sing? How many of you were told, those questions we talked
I'm
about
too
before?
loud.
You're too loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Another one is how many of you have ever said anything you regretted?
So much.
And I always ask that one last because that's true for everybody, right? We all flinch and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that when I was
Mhm.
12. Oh my God."
Not
Like,
only that, but I feel like I'm the queen of putting my foot in my mouth without even realizing I'm doing it, right? I won't even know a situation that is occurring that everyone else in the room knows. So I'll make a joke just trying to be funny. And everybody else is just like, "Oh my God, what did she just say?" I have no idea what they know. And
yeah,
I'm just making a joke.
Yeah.
Notorious Dave Saroop.
Yeah. Well, now where I go with that is okay, everybody in the room, really? Maybe not.
Yeah.
You know, like we do this, you know, we say, "Oh God, I said something stupid and I am ashamed and everybody knows it." You know, you can go there where like how many people really care?
Right. And as you're saying that, when you were talking about, um, were you told that you couldn't sing? Were you told that you were too loud? Have you
Yeah.
ever said anything? The things that were coming up for me
Mm.
were guilt, shame, not enoughness, unworthiness, right?
Yeah.
So as you were talking, emotions are coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that goes into a whole other thing
Yeah.
of, yeah, whew, my own current journey, you know, is I've been a meditator for a long time. I started practicing yoga when I was 16 and I'm 64, so, you know, almost 50 years. Is that it? Yeah, that one.
Also, hold that thought. I
Yeah.
can't believe you're 64 because I thought maybe I'm 48. So I'm like, oh, maybe she's like 52. Carry on.
Yeah. Yeah, and you still need me and you'll still feed me. I just turned 64, so I've been singing that song a lot, right? So, um, I don't know. So emotion, right, is in the yogic tradition that and community that I was deeply steeped in for a long time. Um, there was sort of emotion, a denigration of emotion, something about emotion not being, emotion, commotion, drama, trauma, that if you engage in emotion, you're going to go down a path that's going to create hell for you, right? So there, I certainly, in the tradition that I'd been steeped in for a long time, I believe that there was bypassing emotion. So like when you're saying, we're making, how many of you, and then these emotions come up. And so part of my own study is how to actually be with emotion rather
Mm,
than bypass it, rather than say, well, I'm holy and I'm going to meditate my way through everything. When you think about, the whole surging of yogic practices in the West, you know, it kind of started back in the late 1800s, but it really, really started to take off in the late 60s, right?
yep.
And there's so much that happens in yoga, so let me see if I hope I'm making sense in all of this, but about emotion. So, like for example, I have a student friend who's really going through something really difficult in their life and said, well, if I were really yogic, I would. And I say, F being yogic,
Yeah.
right? Because there's this kind of like being yogic means I should behave. There's a whole construct. And it's not just being yogic, but it could be being Christian or being
Being
at
anything.
being anything, that there's a construct. So I'm going to set myself into that construct, right?
Yeah.
And if I do that, and I've done this plenty, if I do that, then I'm not here,
Hmm.
right? So I'm saying to her, F being yogic, feel what you feel. The situation is really difficult. And yogic means what? You're gonna float above something and not deal with it? I hope I'm making sense in all of
You're
that.
making total sense. You
Yeah,
have to feel it to heal it, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
have to move through it. You
yeah,
can't just pretend it's not there, or like you said, rise above it and
yeah,
just watch it happening down there. I don't have to partake in that. Of course you do, because if
yeah,
you don't, how do you heal,
yeah,
right? How do you release?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I'm
yeah.
going to say Dave Suroop for president of the world
Yeah,
because
but yeah, okay.
right? Who would want that job?
Yeah, right,
But
right, right.
the reason I'm saying that, that's what popped into my mind as you were talking, because let's all stop living for or pretending to be the ideal
Yeah,
of any particular group.
yeah,
Let's just treat others how we want to be treated. Know that we're all dealing with our own shit,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And let's just support each other to move through it and get to the other side of it. Because
yeah,
imagine what a different community, household, community, country, world, universe it would be if we could live that way versus no, my way is right and your way is wrong. And I'm going to do this because I'm trying to reach this.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've always, it's commonly come up when I'm teaching. And of course, I teach anyway, from inspiration of, truth within that, what do they say, sweep your own porch first. That,
I've never heard that, but I love it.
yeah, yeah. So, if I am settled within myself, which is, a, that's that's a journey. That's a life journey, right? Settling, getting dysregulated, getting re-regulated, that's the journey. But if I'm settled within myself, then my home relationships, my friend relationships, my community, that reach, that I can move in the world with more, I use the word authentic a lot, but with more authenticity, more connection, more, I can be in the supermarket checking out and have a calm connection with the person that's, checking me out, or, that, and sometimes that doesn't work. And sometimes you know, some we're not 1,000%. That's part of the human journey, right?
Right.
So
Well, what I pulled out from what you just said is sweeping your own front porch so you can just be in the world,
yeah,
right? You're not holding on to shame. You're healing your own trauma, your own anything that you've gone through. So then you can just be and allow. And that's the most beautiful thing. And so for me, going back to what I said, I've pivoted my niche with who I'm working with several times until I landed here. And this feels right. Because what I do is I teach women to use their life lessons, their life experiences that they've gone through, that they have done the feeling so they could do the healing,
yeah,
so they can now use that experience and what they've learned to help other women
yeah,
go through the same thing, because
yeah,
everyone doesn't have the tools. And if you've gone through it and you've healed from it, it doesn't mean that it's one way to quote unquote fix everyone, but you have an experience, which is like your base to start.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Something that comes to mind when I'm thinking about tools, right? And you come to what you do with your own, what do we say? We have a PhD in life, like
exactly.
You come with your own tools, and everybody you work with comes with their own life experience and brings their theirs forward so that they can serve, you know. And I actually had one of the women that we know in our community, you and I know, I had a soul reading last night with this woman that we know.
Oh boy.
And so she said, and it's hilarious for me because um, I've been having this happen. I've been doing just various talking to different healers and stuff as I've been going through a lot this past 6 months or so. And she said that like essentially my destiny from birth has been um, music and voice. And then I had this astrologer. These people don't know each other, and he goes, "Oh, I've read 1,000 charts." This was a few months ago, more than 1,000 charts, and there's your chart. I've never seen one that is more about the voice and mantra and all of that. And both of them, I've had several of different things as well, but he's in Portugal, she's in Australia, whatever,
Yeah.
and you know, and like she was saying last night, she goes, if you're thinking about doing something else, don't. I mean,
Wow.
you have your choice, but so I think because for me, you know, for whatever reason, this is manifested for me, right?
Hmm.
And there's all sorts of sayings and things you can pick out where, frequency and vibration is the medicine of the future.
Yeah.
That it's all about frequency, and that you can heal yourself and others through frequency, and that can manifest in all sorts of ways, but through vibration. I do it with the voice, right? So that's what I know. And that's what I know really works because it's worked really, really magnificently for me. And but that each of Pascal, and each of the people that you work with have their own magic
Yeah.
that that may be known fully, maybe just a little tiny little pilot light flame
Mhm.
waiting for the ignition,
Yeah.
um, maybe partially revealed, but it's, you know, yeah, so that everybody has some sort of magic to bring forward. And I want to say to help create, I don't know, more awareness or more a world we'd like to be part of.
As you were speaking, what came into my mind was when we can all embrace and live our gifts, that's when and how we're going to heal the world. Because it's not about money. Money's not real.
Yeah,
Status isn't real. It's
yeah,
all made up. All these things that we feel like we crave, like we want more money, we want the bigger house, the faster car, we want the title, we want all the things. That's all just made up. The reality is, all there is our vibration.
yeah, yeah,
None of that other stuff is real.
yeah. Because all of that can be taken away from you in a flash.
In a minute, absolutely, in a second.
Yep.
Ah, none of it's real.
Yeah.
What is real is this present moment right now, right? Because although we have memories of our past, they're just stories that we tell ourselves over and over in our heads, right? We can't get back there. So that's not real. That's not reality. The future, we can have goals, and it's important to have goals. It's important to have aspirations. It's important to grow and expand toward something, but the future isn't real either. It's just in this moment right here as I'm looking at you, Dave Suroop, on this screen. This is all we have because the beginning of the conversation is already gone. So
Yeah.
that's not real either.
Yeah. Yeah. And what a, I don't know about you, but what a challenge to maintain that reality. So we need practice, reminder, practice to be in that, whatever that practice is, meditation or, whatever that is, to remember that, because there's so much bombarding us, even more and more and more and more, the flood of information, and people trying to resolve things with, we've got wars, you know
Exactly. As you're sitting there talking about it, the both of us just keep taking a breath. I see it in
Mm.
both of us. And we both have been like moving our bodies, right? Because in the energy of all those things, it's all uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so when you're in an uncomfortable situation, think about that. What do? You hold your breath. You might lean forward because you're trying to appear bigger or larger in a situation. You might move backwards and shrink down a little bit because that's how you're feeling. But
Yeah.
in all the situations, we're always moving and trying to be comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And moving is, like, it was really interesting. Like I said, I had this soul reading last night, which I have great trust for this colleague of ours. And I had said something that was, challenging, that had gone on in my yoga community, that I'm kind of not so much part of, not as much part of. And she goes, "Oh yeah, I can feel that." And she had all her kind of tools around her, and she's like, moving and whipping, and moving things through to move the energy, because she could feel it.
Yeah.
And so she has learned not to just sit in, I mean, we're gifted with these bodies, and we hold things in our body. And that movement, which is a form of vibration, movement is important um, for releasing and managing. And, you know, we're all just trying to move, know who we are, and move with the greatest integrity. I believe that, as possible.
Yeah.
Um, so how important that is. With all the stuff that is trauma, like trauma informed, things, and trauma processing, and um, I have another somebody that I'm acquainted with. She's in the UK, and she's a trauma expert. And one thing she was saying, and I'm not sure where I'm going, but we're talking about the body, right?
Yeah.
She was saying that with trauma gets stored in the body, and that you can't. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot around this. Okay, but so I'm sure a listener is going, well, I can tell you, give me a
Yeah.
call. I'd love to hear about it. Like that that trauma is held in the body, and that talk therapy is not going to release your trauma. You have to release the trauma through the body,
Yeah.
somatically, through some sort of physiological process. And interesting, you know?
So interesting. I think talk therapy is a great tool
I love
and it
talk
helps
therapy.
get you started, right? Because as you're talking, you are getting some movement because you're getting that out, the thoughts, the feelings, you're releasing them. Your voice is a vibration. So you're moving that energy through that vibration. And at the same time, there's so much more movement to do in the rest of your body. And
Yeah.
I feel like as you've been talking, I've had so many epiphanies because, there was a time in my life when I really struggled with depression, and I had postpartum depression, undiagnosed for 18 months,
Mm.
and I didn't move.
Ah, yeah.
Didn't move. I literally that summer, thank God my kids were too little to actually remember, but
Mm.
that summer I took them outside to play twice.
Ah,
Otherwise, we played in the house. I
mm.
put on a ton of weight because all I did was eat because I'm an emotional eater and
Yeah.
then go sit back on the couch or sit on the floor. I
Yep.
was able to play with my kids and interact with my kids. And then that was it. I had no more energy for anything else.
Yeah.
My husband would come home, God bless him, and say, "But I just don't understand how you can't clean the kitchen." And I'm like, "I don't know. I can't explain it, but I just can't."
Yeah.
And everything you're saying just goes to that point because all of that ugh is stuck in your body.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're literally and physically stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah. I got a good one about depression. And it's interesting to have this conversation because I have been busy, talking to this one and that one, and kind of I'm in a kind of a gathering kind of place. But I
yeah.
watched this really short clip of Jim Carrey. It was a minute or 2 minute clip, and he was talking about a spiritual teacher of his, somebody that he knows. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was talking about depression as deep rest, deep rest, depressed, depressed, deep rest.
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to find that clip and put it in show notes because
Yeah, I'll see if I
wow.
can try to find it. It's just one of those things that you kind of flip through. But
Yeah.
you know, I mean, depression, real, real thing, right? Postpartum depression, real thing. And I know when I experience low times, depression, I'm trying to push myself out of it. And so it's like that part of it that maybe I need to rest. Now, I'm not talking about clinical depression. I'm not talking,
Of
not,
course.
but anyway, that of course, and as a sound person, I love that deep rest, depressed. I love, the play in the words in English anyway, is really fascinating.
It's fascinating. I'm sitting
Yeah.
here like, I don't know. I'm just, as you're talking, my head is just like shaking up and down. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I think back to that time, let me tell you what was going on in that time, which is why right now I feel like I have this look of just astoundment on my face as
Mm.
I'm listening to you talk, but I wasn't supposed to have any children.
Oh,
So we
wow.
went to the Reproductive Science Center and went through that whole thing. And we were blessed enough to get pregnant, right?
Beautiful.
We had our first baby, and we were like, you know what? When she is 3 months old, let's go back and start the paperwork so that when she's 6 months old, we can start again for another baby.
Right.
And at the same time, if we never have another baby, we're so blessed to even have this one, right?
Right. Right.
So we made that proclamation when she was 3 months old, and I was getting ready to go back to start the paperwork and whatever. I found out very shortly thereafter. So we went back, we started the paperwork. We're like, we want to come back on this date and this month, and we want to get started again. that was when she was 4 months old. I just kind of felt a little funny, and I'm like, there's no way. Let me take a test. I took a test.
Wow.
There's no way this positive is right. This has to be a false positive. I took 4 tests, Dave
Wow.
Suroop. They were all positive.
Wow.
I went to where my husband was working that day, and I was almost in tears. Like my voice was like trying to get the words out. And I'm like, honey, I think I might be pregnant. And he was like, why? I'm like, because I took a test and it said positive. Right. But let me just tell you, back up a little bit. When you go through infertility treatments, I was giving myself injections into my stomach of hormones
Wow.
on a schedule,
Wow.
right? And then the day before you went in for like the big thing, you'd have to give yourself this very timed injection. And then you go in and you have the procedure, and then you go home and you put your feet up on the couch and all these things. It was very stressful and time, I don't know. Then I found out I was pregnant again. And so I was giving hormones. I became pregnant. All the hormones ramp up, right, to support the pregnancy. You have the baby, all the hormones drop off. Then I got pregnant again. All the hormones go back up.
Wow.
Amazing. All
Yeah.
they're up. I'm pregnant, full term. I have that baby. The hormones drop off again.
Yeah.
There was no rest in
Right.
that time. So,
Right.
what you're saying about what Jim Carrey said about depressed, deep rest, you need deep rest. Darn it, I needed deep rest. Those babies were only 13 months apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
holy.
Yeah. And I can't get up and do the dishes, and then to put the deep rest concept in there, and kind of go,
Right.
you know, like,
It explains so much.
yeah.
And that's just a little piece of it, right?
Yeah.
Because the chemicals in your brain are absolutely different. And I
Yeah.
don't want this to say, oh, if you're depressed, you can go off your meds. All you have to do is just rest on the couch. I don't mean
No, no,
that.
no, no.
However, in that time, holy Moses, does that make so much sense?
Yeah. And I want to accentuate that about, that the complexity and the individuality of situations, like some people are anti medication or
Mhm.
and I am not,
No,
it's like if it works and you need it, use it.
right.
And uh you know in a balanced way, I've um uh so there's the whole plethora of situations, and there's the whole different ways of treatment, and this thing about deep rest is just a something to put into the mix
Yeah.
that.
It's just another tool, isn't it? Like we
Yeah.
started talking about in the beginning, there are
Yeah.
so many tools.
Yeah.
And, where you do sound healing and you use your voice and mantra, and I love that you say mantra the right way because I'm so American. Mantra,
man
mantra,
man man
man,
yeah, tra
mantra,
mantra.
mantra.
Yeah, there it is, mantra.
I love you.
Yeah.
Um, yes. So I just lost my train of thought for a moment, but it's just another one of the tools.
Yeah.
And I love so much that so many doctors now are pulling in Eastern practices because I feel like that's what we need. We need a balance of Eastern and Western medicine.
Yeah. And you think about Eastern practices or indigenous practices, have been evolving through millennia, right? And when you look at yogic practices, they're based on the sort of proving ground is experience, people's experience. That's the proving ground. And that it's only in the past, I don't know, 50, 100 years or whatever, that research, actual, you know, research process is saying, hey, if you do this particular practice, we can prove that this is the result. It's going to take maybe never for all the research aspect of it to validate the millennial, the time immemorial experience of, of experience of what experience proves for people. But
Right.
you look at both, and it's nice to have this
Yeah.
because all the things, like, I could go for, through yogic history, just to focus on the yogic stuff, is that through yogic history, anything that is people are practicing is a download from their experience. It's
Mm.
easy, no, it's not like, okay, well, it was written somewhere, but that is from somebody's experience. If somebody has some divine experience and they try to put it in words, words only go so far, right? But where did it come from? It came from some inspiration.
And where did that come from?
Yeah, divine source, whatever people want to say, about that. So it's
Right.
how do you prove it? How do you prove a lineage? What does a lineage mean? It's like, let's just sit down and breathe, okay?
Yeah. That's what
Let's
I feel like. I feel like, okay, I need to take a breath.
Yeah, let's hum. Let's center ourselves in our own experience.
Yeah. So I'm glad you said hum because I want to bring the conversation back to what you do. So when you're working with your clients, is there a particular what are they coming to you for?
What I like to do is I have them do a self-assessment, kind of their perception of their voice. And we if I'm working with somebody one-on-one, we would talk about what they're looking to accomplish. They want to create confidence is key. That's a lot of what people are looking for. So, and many other things, but what are they looking for? And then if I'm working one-on-one, I design practices for them that we would do together to get them going, and that they would have vocal practices to be embodied in themselves. Then we come back and we work on it some more. If somebody's a yoga teacher or a sound healer, these are the kinds of people that I would be working with. Um, Although, if anybody goes, hey, wow, that sounds interesting, let's do it, um, I'll do like, okay, let's talk about how you incorporate this now into your teaching, into your healing work, and then report back. And it's really phenomenal what starts happening for people, because everybody's different. Everybody's how they're doing their teaching and their practice is different. And also the environments that they're teaching in, maybe they're working one-on-one, maybe they're teaching in a college, at the YMCA, and what you can bring into an environment varies. So
Yeah.
I'm very interested in let's get you in your own voice, and how are you applying it, and keep on working with that as we're going forward. So that's it's sort of a flow. If I'm working one-on-one, it's really individualized. So
I love that. And, going back to the retreat where you were leading from the stage,
mm,
I remember in the beginning, you were like, we're going to, I don't remember if you said chant or but we were singing out with our voices, la la la. And my eyes were closed. I remember my hands were in my heart. I remember I was swaying. Like I can put myself right back there in that moment.
Mm,
And in the beginning, when we first started, my voice was just very
mhm.
quiet, right? And then I would say three-quarters of the way towards the end, I noticed that I was being louder and I was expressing that.
Yeah,
Um, Maybe not even volume is the right word, but with more strength, with more confidence.
yeah,
And that is what made me just come back to that, as you said, the confidence. Because just in that short period of time, I was truly able to go from, being very mousy to pushing my voice, allowing my voice to go way out here.
yeah. And what I want to drop in, and I know
Oh
we're
no.
coming to the end here, is one thing that starts happening, and it's sort of a stealth thing that starts happening, is sometimes, I don't know how often, maybe all the time, but people are able to show up with their voice in their life with greater confidence. I have people who have really, really difficult situations happening, infidelity in their marriage, that kind of thing, and difficult conversations. And they're able to say, uh, in, a few instances that I can think of, they're able to say things in their strength that they weren't able to say before. They're
Wow.
able to say, I'm not going to lie for you.
Yeah.
This and do it in, you know, the in the trauma of life, in the difficulty of life. Sure, there's the screaming, sobbing, you know, moments.
Yeah.
But what I hear back from people sometimes is they're able to, and I'm curious how this is going to evolve as I continue to work with people this way, how often this kind of stuff shows up, but they're able to say, look, this is what I need in difficult situations. And yeah, let's do that.
So I know that you work with yoga teachers and yoga teacher trainers, but through this whole conversation, you can work with any person
Yep,
because what you're doing truly helps people show up in the world with more
yep,
confidence, with
yep,
greater personal power, with greater
yep.
strength. And I don't mean like fight you strength, I
Right,
mean
right, right, right.
more grounded and centered in who they are.
Yep. And
Yeah.
the tool that I use is the voice.
Yeah.
And I know how to do it. I figure, I kind of just stumbled into this. It turned out I keep on getting the message that it was destined, but I know how to do it. I know how to help people be embodied in their own authentic voice. I know how to do it.
Yeah. I truly believe that we all come into this world with certain gifts, divine given gifts.
Yeah.
This is your gift.
Yeah.
One of my divinely given gifts is the ability to hold space, the ability for people to feel seen and heard, right? It's not my only gift. This isn't your only gift.
Right.
But I truly believe what you're saying, that you were given this gift to bring into the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. At
Even
some
when I fight it or don't believe it or go, oh, not me. What do you mean? All
Not
that.
me, right?
Yeah.
But where does that come from? That for me either comes from a place of fear,
Yeah.
because they're afraid to acknowledge it or own it, or a place of unworthiness.
Yeah.
Who am I to
Yeah.
XYZ,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
find that with my own clients. Well, who am I to think I know enough? I don't have a degree in teaching or coaching or therapy or da, da, da. So who am I
Yeah.
to XYZ? And
Yeah.
what you're saying is exactly the same thing. And who you are is a person who was given this gift and challenged this gift through life experience
Yeah.
until you reach this place where you're able to share your gift more fully.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Amazing. I want
Yeah.
to keep talking to you forever. And I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking this is going to have to be a part one and a part two episode
Oh,
because
good. Oh,
there
let's do
is none of this I want to cut out. I
it.
still
Yeah.
don't want to stop talking, but I know we must at some point. So, is there anything as we're closing out that you would like to oftener? Is there
Often.
anything as we're closing out that you would like to offer to listeners?
Yeah, I have a free half-hour session that an empowered voice breakthrough session that we can get together and talk about where you are right now with your voice, what what your vision and goals are for it, what your challenges are. I can offer a mini practice for you that can help you progress and kind of feel some forward movement in that. And so, Pascal, you're going to share the link for that, right?
It'll be right in show notes.
Yeah, and yeah, and I'd love to just spend time and one on one. It's really fun and connect and talk and no obligation. Just see, um, explore with you.
Yeah.
And then if you want, if you see that if we see that there's a way to work more together, great. And I work with people one on one. I also have um, programs that I offer periodically. I've got a really great retreat coming up in the spring that I'm gonna offer. So, there's other things I'm doing as well. So, yeah.
What is your website so everyone can find you easily and kind of keep track of all these things that you've got coming up?
Yeah, it's davesuroop.com. So it's just my first name,
Okay.
DSUROOP.com.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Which
I-
will also be in show notes.
excellent.
What do you say to the person who's like, I really want to sign up for the free session, just to see what this is really all about, but I feel like I am tone deaf. I am not confident. What do you say to that person?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's look at it because a lot of what is our our self-perceptions around voice and expression are largely false.
Yeah.
See, like I'd like to get a hold of you, Pascal.
Oh, don't think I haven't been standing here thinking, I'm signing up for a session. We're going to
Yeah.
work together.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's not it's I don't know why our brains work that way, but it's
Well, because it's our ego, right? We don't want to show up in a way that's going to make us feel unsafe,
yeah.
or that's not going to make us show up as the alpha, the all knowing. Everybody wants to know, everybody wants to be the best. Da, da, da. That comes from our ego. But
Yep.
it's if we can get into our bodies, into that feeling place, and just let the ego be and say, nope, I'm not interested in subscribing to that newsletter anymore. I want to subscribe to the body's newsletter, right? But it is hard to step out of the ego and into the body.
Yeah. And a big priority for me is what I call brave and safe space. And Brene Brown talks a lot about brave space because safety means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and you can't guarantee safety, right?
Right?
But what we can be is brave, and what we can be is mutual, and we can meet each other right where we are
Yeah.
and be clear and honest in that. And that's a big priority for me in my teaching and my own personal evolution. So
Mm,
rather than power over, that we are empowered. That's why I call it empowered sound.
yeah.
So,
As you're saying that, rather than being empowered over, we're being empowered. And I almost feel like it's empowered because we're in it
uh,
together,
uh,
right? And
uh,
that power is coming from within.
I like that. Yeah, empowered. Yeah,
Empowered.
and
Yeah. Feel free to use that. It's not trademarked.
yeah,
It just came to me. I'll be using it as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm writing Pascal with a little TM over the top just for
Even
fun.
include it. Never. You are welcome because we're always better together, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah,
People are always better together.
yeah. So
Dave Suroop, thank you for being here. My listeners are better for having joined into this conversation. I'm better every time we get together, and the
good.
world is better just because you're in it.
Oh, you're so kind. I just adore you, Pascal. I'm such a fan. I was like,
Mm,
when we were in community together, and I'm going, "Ooh, who's she?" In the little Brady Bunch thing in Zoom rooms of like, I want Pascal.
I need to know Dave Suroop. Wait,
Yeah,
how do you say her name? Because
yeah,
I used to
totally.
say
I
Dev
know.
Suroop,
That's true.
right?
Yeah,
That's okay. Nobody says Pascal right anyway, initially. Nobody, but it's
yeah,
always pronounced. I don't care.
yeah. You just move, right? Yeah,
That's it. That's just my label.
yeah.
I love and adore you. You have the very best day.
You too. Bless you.